Welcome to Africa Sustainability Network, the fireside chat powered by Beyond the Boardroom with CJ. This part of our conversation is sustainable business practices for 2025. And we have a very seasoned speaker for that particular topic, Cheche. Hi, Cheche.
Hi, CJ. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So let's hear about your brief profile.
Okay. Well, CJ contacted me via LinkedIn. It was a very random reach out. And typically I would have been like, who is this and what is going on? But then she said a mutual friend of ours gave me my number and we started talking. And I realized we kind of share the same passions. My journey into the financial sector started over a decade ago. To be honest, I can say from birth because my father was in the financial sector. I grew up in the sector. My initials are actually CBN. So in my head, I was supposed to be a central bank governor. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll get there. But my real passion lies in financial inclusion, access to finance for everybody. In the sense that when you go to your villages, when you go to your rural areas, how many financial institutions exist there? Some parts of the country that are only accessible via waterways. Do banks really think about taking their services to that area? Even if they do, how much profitability is in it for them? So in the end, they don't reach those far inland regions. So because of that, when I joined the central bank, I was in the financial inclusion strategy office. We worked on the mobile banking frameworks, consumer protection frameworks. And after that, circumstances beyond my control, I met my wife in central bank, and husband and wife cannot work there. So I had to leave the bank. But luckily for me, I transitioned to NDIC. I worked with NDIC while I was in CBN, so it was a smooth transition. I ended up doing something similar. Not financial inclusion per se, but financial education. What we did in NDIC involved taking banking curriculum and deposit insurance curriculum, because not many people know what we do in NDIC, to the universities and secondary schools. So now over 10 universities have deposit insurance curriculum, where we actually teach them what the NDIC does, what happens when a bank fails, and more of that. And then once you contacted me, I said, why not? Let's discuss sustainability.
Wow, nice. Thank you so much. Very interesting profile. I mean, I think our audience would just like to know what happens when a bank fails because I'm sure, like briefly, yes. Because when the bank failed, what's that bank? I think Heritage Bank.
Yes.
A lot of people were like, what happens going to happen to my audience who pays that? So, I mean, I think we should know.
So what happens when a bank fails? So a bank fails when the central bank officially revokes the license of the bank, right? So once the license has been revoked, NDIC is appointed the liquidator of the bank. Our job is to go and assess what are the assets of the bank, what are the liabilities of the bank. The liabilities, of course, are your deposits. That's to begin with. Because once you put your money in a bank as a deposit, the bank is technically borrowing that money from you. So those are the liabilities of the bank. So once we assess what the assets and liabilities of the bank are, we start with, like you said, urgent 2K. We find out what the deposits are, and then we pay those initial deposits as soon as possible. So if you have up to 5 million naira in your account, we will pay you up to 5 million naira without you really doing anything. Your BVN is available. If you have an alternate bank account, we will just transfer the money from the Heritage Bank that failed to the alternate bank accounts using your BVN information. And that's the most basic explanation of what we do. But of course, we do much more than that. But that's just the most basic in this context, since everybody's worried about their identity.
All right. So before we begin, I mean, we've already begun, right?
Yes.
Can we identify any misconceptions about sustainability in Nigeria and how would you demystify these myths?
Well, I would say the first, I won't call it a misconception because it's not really a misconception, but it's a generalization. Once you hear sustainability, everybody just thinks climate change. Everyone just thinks environment, environment, environment. And yes, the concept of sustainability, especially since 1987, the Bratland Report was about the environment. Sustainability means meeting your present needs while making sure that the future generations have the ability to meet their needs as well.
Yes.
So we're thinking in the sense that every business survives off the natural environment. So you can't survive if you're constantly, forgive the word I'm going to use, raping the natural environment. But that's not just where sustainability ends. You think about an organization. If an organization does not take care of its employees, the organization is not going to last.
Yes.
That's sustainability in the social context. Because I like to say this, and I say this to colleagues and friends, we work to live. We don't live to work. So if an organization doesn't take care of my needs as an employee, I have to leave them. Or I have to go somewhere where I feel that my life outside of the office is matched by my life inside the office. So I have that balance. What other aspects of sustainability are there? You look at the governance aspect of sustainability, the leadership of the organization. When you look at your leaders in your organization, do you feel proud to be working for them? Do you think they actually have an idea of what they're doing? So these are aspects of sustainability that don't relate directly to the environment. But once you hear sustainability, the first thing you just think is climate change, COP28, COP29, Paris agreements. Those are the really there, carbon emissions, CO2, GHG. For the most part, I don't even know how to calculate what GHG is.
I don't know too. Okay, but let's just do this very quick one. When you got my invite and you saw sustainability, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
But
Yes, please.
I was going to outside. Yes, with the whole climate change conversation. I saw that, but then I thought about it. There's also the social aspect. Next thing, it's just going to talk about the social aspect. But I think it's regardless, it was the chance to involve me. So let's get this. I had a problem with people just hammering on environments in Africa, especially when when it's so industrialized, or we don't emit as much CO2 as the rest of the world. That's helping us to cut down planning standard, which cut its CO2 emissions everywhere. So for a continent that has a very minute bunch of carbon emissions, we shouldn't do that. So you shouldn't dwell in all environmental. You shouldn't talk about social aspects. And I like what you try to do, focusing on the social aspect. So yes, but.
All right, thank you so much. So let's move into the next one.
Okay.
So in the book Sustainability and COP, it's a book by Professor Fabian Ochogwu and Dr. Nnanna. One of the key recommendations is that CEOs should prioritize investing in renewable energy sources and energy efficiency measures to decarbonize operations and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. How practical is that for Nigerian businesses, particularly MSMEs, to transition from burning fossil fuels generators to renewable energy, given the high cost that is associated with it?
Practical for MSMEs, I would say not so much in the short term. Because as you said, high costs, especially in a country where you have policy somersaults the way we have in Nigeria. So when you think sustainability, you're thinking long term, right? So
Yes.
even if I decided as an MSME, I can absorb that cost in the short term. I don't have faith in the Nigerian economy that in the long term, the policies in place will not still mean I'm not being profitable in the future. So I don't think it is that practical in the short term. But let's remove ourselves from the MSMEs themselves. The role of power generation, the role of power distribution, it's a national policy, right? It's a government role. And the federal government actually has action plans towards that fact. 2020, there's supposed to be urban electrification, rural electrification for all. There's a plan for it. There's a transition, and there's an energy transition plan. I think it was released in 2022 by the federal government. So one of the goals is energy access for all by 2030, and by 2060, carbon neutral energy access. And the amount of money required to get that, I know World Economic Forum estimated it's close to about $410 billion. So if the federal government takes on that responsibility, then I don't think MSMEs have to put that burden on themselves. I consider myself an MSME, not in the sense that I have a business, but me as an entity, I'm an MSME. Now look at my home. Once they transition from the supposed power subsidy to now band A, band B, band C, band D, and I quickly rushed and ran and got myself a solar inverter and to reduce my overall cost. Now, my initial outputs made me cry. Let me just tell you the truth, because for the most part, my wife was like, "Oh, honey, we need to do this," and I'm like, "Honey doesn't have the money right now. Honey just put up solar panels around the house, just put up a 10 kV inverter and how many batteries." So it was high and it was burdensome. Let me put it that way. So for MSMEs, I feel that it will be burdensome for them in the short term. But if the government doesn't do it, they have to figure out a way to reduce their own energy costs. I'm not even thinking about from the emissions aspect of it. For their own productivity and long lifespan, they have to reduce their own energy costs. If not, they will end up transferring that bill to the customers. And how many customers can afford to buy your product when the price keeps on going up and going up and going up? So that's an economic aspect of sustainability you will have to look at as well.
Somebody is saying she's doing business and she's thinking of. All right, thank you so much for that. I mean, I can only imagine the fact that if I expend 10 million naira, for instance,
Yes.
to put up a very, it depends on, of course, the size of the factory, right? I cannot take the cost alone. I have to
Transfer it, yeah.
transfer it. I'm talking about what the government can do. I think that I was at I think it was the NBA section on business law, 2024, and there was a session where I put a question to the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission, and what are you doing about this whole thing? If you're talking about energy transition, what is your role? I mean, I cannot buy solar at this amount, and you're just, so they actually explain that there are subsidies in place, and for importing the alternative energy supplies and all of that. But I mean, let's just keep hoping that the government keeps doing something. But I mean, like you said, if they do not, then we have to take the charge to do it ourselves.
Yeah, so before you go for it, the issue with the government per se, I don't want to harp on the government, because as a business, you also have to think about how you can find your own solutions regardless of the environment around you. The issue with government policies is transparency. You hear that, oh, there was a subsidy in place and now they removed the subsidy, that's why it's more expensive. But how many times have you seen an NERC annual report? How many times have you seen it in the public where you actually notice the financial aspect of it? Where are the subsidies? Who is the one enjoying the benefits of the subsidies? Was it you and I? Because I don't know.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's move to the next. I wanted to skip this question, but maybe let's just head right into it. I was at an event some time ago and somebody was saying no one cares about your environment. They just want to make returns on investment. So as someone with extensive experience in the banking industry, do you believe investors truly prioritize companies that are committed to sustainability or maybe even environmental sustainability when making investment decisions?
You say it's extensive experience. Well, I'm experienced from one aspect. I've never been a practitioner on banking. I've always been on the regulatory side. So let me put it this way. There is a forum called Global Alliance for Banking and Values. So it's an association of value-based banks. So these are banks that don't just prioritize profits, but they prioritize investments in climate-related ventures, investments in the environment, in the real world. According to them, in the past 10 years, value-based banks have outperformed globally, systemically important banks, which are the regular JP Morgans of the world. But obviously, they can't outpace them in volume because in real numbers, those banks are too big. But percentage-wise, so if you're looking at the loans given by value-based banks compared to their assets, then the loans given by globally, systemically important banks compared to their assets, right? Value-based banks have a higher percentage of loans compared to their assets given out. So it tells you that some banks actually pay attention to it. They actually care about the environment. But let me ask that question. I'll pose this question to the person that says nobody cares about your returns. How much can you take for your environment? And how long can you last taking from your environment? If, for instance, all your funding is oil and gas companies, and oil and gas companies keep on taking from the South-South region, and they don't develop the South-South region, how profitable would they be in the next 20 years when the people of the region revolt and stand up? Or how profitable will they be when the oil dries out? What happened even during the COVID pandemic when nobody actually wanted oil? Banks that had concentration of loans in the oil and gas sector actually had to, there's something called forbearances, which central bank can give, where they say, okay, we'll extend this loans period. So instead of us marking you as non-performing because your loan was supposed to return in the next 5 years, but because of COVID, we realized, you could not pay that in the 5 years because oil prices dropped to what? Under $10 a barrel. At some point, there were some companies that were even being paid money to store oil for them. So they couldn't pay. So central bank now gave those banks forbearances saying, okay, these loans, okay, push them for another 10 years, which makes it look better on their financial books that they are not non-performing. You understand? Because when the books look bad, then investors and stock prices drop. So while yes, I can hear the word ESG as a buzzword, but I still believe it's important that you pay attention to the environment, pay attention to your social circle when you're investing. It's very, very important.
All right. Thank you so much. So in recent times, technology has played a significant role in promoting financial inclusivity within the financial industry. Based on your sustainability analysis, how can technology be leveraged to drive sustainability? Furthermore, what strategies can be put in place to ensure that innovations are sustained, given that many successful startups tend to struggle after their initial success?
So, yes, technology has aided life in so many. I mean, look at us conversating right now, but through technology. In the old times, how would you find me? There's no LinkedIn, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way you would have found that, unless you have word of mouth going around, this person knows this.
Yeah.
But you look at the OPs of this world. How many people here have an OP account?
I had to.
You have money points. Money points, OP. I remember when central bank will have engagements with the traditional banks of this world, and they were telling them the mobile banking framework, the mobile agent banking network. And the banks were saying, to set up an agent network is too expensive. And the returns will not come immediately. In their defense, bank MDs have a very short tenure. Now, I think it's about 12 years maximum tenure as an executive in a bank, which means that your board members and your shareholders are going to be judging you within your time frame as a bank MD. So most of them don't want to say, I'm committing 10 billion naira to build an agent network, knowing that 10 billion naira is only going to see profits in the next 10 years. By that time, I'm out of the office. So they didn't want to do it. But now the money points of this world, because they are nimble, because they are smaller, they were able to maneuver into that market. And I believe there was a recent report that called that valued money point at over $1 billion.
Yes.
Right? OPay2 is over $2 billion. The Wema Bank has been around for how long? How are they valued at that level? No, I'm not trying to call out a bank. I'm not trying to make them feel bad because every bank has a specific target. They have a niche in which they operate. But technology has aided financial inclusion. And now the financial inclusion rate has actually significantly dropped. Because I know in 2012 or so, the financial exclusion rate was about 58%. If I don't have the exact numbers, but it was high amongst adults. And now it has started coming down. By 2020, I think it had dropped down to under 40%, so 30 something thereabouts. So technology aids it. Now, as to whether technology can be sustained, we all know technology moves at the speed of light. What makes a business last, apart from the environment in which it operates, is the leadership.
Yes.
And that's your expertise beyond the boardroom with CJ. The boardroom is very, very important. If the leadership doesn't direct properly, we both know that that company is not going to last. If you go to Tech Cabal's website, you will see a list of fintechs and startups that raised capital for $5 million here, $40 million there. The reason why was it Dash, if that's the name, if I'm getting it right, Dash.
Back.
That was closed down recently because what? It's currently what?
It's scholarly investment.
It's squandered the investment. And who is responsible for squandering the investment? It's not the employees. It's the boardroom. So you want to see success in your organization, you get the board structure right.
We need to do like this.
You get the board structure right. You get the board composition right. The structure can be in place, but the members of the board need to be selected properly, right? Yeah. You can't just pick your friends and say, this is my board. You can't just pick your family members. In the 90s, Nigerian banks were filled with family members and board members. And the chairman will literally tell you, no, I'm doing it this way. And next thing you know, exactly. And next thing you know, the bank has lost 30 billion naira or 5 billion naira, as the case may be. I mean, there was a day in 1998 where CBN revoked the license of 28 banks at once. And all those banks, if you do a case study on all of them, actually NDIC has done a case study on most of the banks that closed in the 90s. All of them, corporate governance issues. All of them. That was what just killed them. Corporate governance issues. It wasn't Naira revaluation or dollar revaluation. It wasn't Naira redesign, as the case may be. It wasn't any other thing other than the fact that the board were just running the companies like it was personal business.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much. Our next question, I mean, that just brings us to knowing the importance of tech. And beyond tech, as business owners, as we're coming up with innovations, it's very important that we have the right, structures in place to ensure that these innovations do not run down our business, but also, aid our businesses to thrive. So the Society for Corporate Governance has a report that is going to release soon, the Outlook for Corporate Governance 2025, and one of the points says that ESG commitments will continue to evolve beyond mere compliance exercises. You are regulators, yes, demanding a deeper integration into core business strategies. So I have a couple of questions from this. First, do you think ESG is just a buzzword?
No, I do not.
Why do you think so?
Let me put it to you this way. It is a buzzword. And buzzwords, there's nothing wrong with being a buzzword. It's catchy. ESG, ESG, ESG. Even me, when I'm trying to package my CV, I'm an ESG expert. It's all sweet. But at the core of it is the essence of business.
Yes.
So when people even say ESG needs to be, an ESG strategy needs to be developed, I don't even like that. I think the corporate strategy should be based off of ESG.
Yes.
The foundation of the corporate strategy should be ESG. So you know that every decision you're making considers these factors. So is it a buzzword? I don't mind you calling it a buzzword, but it should be the focus of your strategy. It should be the foundation of your strategy.
So beyond the ESG reporting, do you think organizations actually go back to analyze these findings and take steps to address the gaps and implement the recommendations? Or, I mean, we're saying this because very soon we're going to adopt a framework for ESG reporting, and everybody's just going to, I just want to have my ESG report out of the way.
Okay.
So beyond the reporting,
So globally, I would say yes. ESG reporting has taken on a life of its own internationally. It's very, very important. In Nigeria, we're still very, very brand new in ESG reporting. The Financial Reporting Council recently adopted the IFRS, ISSB standards, right? It's not even compulsory yet. Anybody that's reporting using those standards, that is a voluntary adopter.
yes,
But it is essential. Like I said earlier, transparency is key. Half of the things we do in this country are not actually talked about. And the things I actually talked about, it's hard to actually see the evidence of. You understand what I'm saying? We want to brag about, oh, we've done this, we've done that, we've done this. But you don't actually have the reports that back it up. You don't have the evidence for it. Meanwhile, the actual things you've done, you don't know how to report it properly. So the move by the Financial Reporting Council to mandate IFRS, ISSB standards is actually a good one. But it will take a lot of time.
yeah,
It will take a lot of time for people to learn the adoption. For MSMEs particularly, who don't even report in the first place. Financial reporting for an MSME is very hard.
right.
I like, when I'm discussing, I like using personal experiences. I like using movies, things that are actually important, that I'm used to. It simplifies the discussion,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
So I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't have an entrepreneurial spirit. It's not in my body. I like to read. I like to write. That's me. But my mother, she is a go-getter. If I tell her I have an idea for a business, within a week, she has already called the company person, lawyer, yeah, let's incorporate the company. I'll say, but I've not even built out the structure. She, don't worry, it will figure itself out. 1 year down the road, I was like, okay, have we done the reports for the year? Say, which reports? This is how much money we made. This is how much is left in the account. I'm like, that's not how you run your business, mommy. She's like, how many businesses have I started? I say, yes, I know how many businesses you started. How many have you sustained? She said, after I finish the business I started, this next person will start continuing now. Well, I guess in my family, that's why they want my parents, because my mother will start the business and my father will make sure that business continues because he's the one that has the banking experience. He knows how to make sure that the reports are in place. But if you ask my mother, see the bank balance. This is how much you have left. That's all I know. I don't want to know what caused the bank balance to be up and down. Sales are good, happy sales are good. That's all that matters.
Speaking about that, we have entrepreneurs in the house.
Okay?
ESG sometimes feels like it is for large organizations. How do you make ESG? How do you sell ESG to our entrepreneurs in the house?
Okay, let me ask the entrepreneur, how many employees do you have? Say, please. For an MSME now, if you have, let's say your business is you sell, since we're on the topic of sustainability and climate change, let's say your business is you sell solar panels, you sell solar accessories and stuff like that. You don't need a lot of people, right? You probably need a delivery guy. If you're going to do installation, you might get an installer as well. But you need a guy in the shop that knows what he's selling and how to sell it. So you maybe need a staff strength of maybe 5 to 7 people. And I'm being generous there. So you think that's a small company, right? So what am I doing with ESG reporting? All these guys, I know them by name. I know their wives. I know their... But do you know if they're happy in the job? How many businesses have failed because the employees don't actually take the business as their business?
Wow.
And that's ESG. And see, that's why I said the fallacy in the beginning was that ESG is climate change. ESG is your employees. ESG is your ownership. ESG are your stakeholders. The primary purpose of business has gone beyond just profit making. It's taking care of everybody within your value chain.
That's
So if the person you're selling to thinks that what you're selling to them came from a war-torn area and all you did was, what's the word I want to use? If what you did was you took it from those people because they were disenfranchised. Nowadays, consumers will be like, I don't want that.
Yes.
You heard me in the conflict diamonds in Sierra Leone, what's going on in Zamfara now, gold and all of that. People are asking questions. Where is this thing coming from?
Yeah.
So if your consumer is questioning how your products are sourced, your employees are questioning why I can't go home by 4 o'clock, instead you're keeping here by 11 o'clock. Or I'm sick and I must bring you 10 doctor's notes. Or my wife is pregnant and I must leave her alone. All these things matter. And these are all environmental or social concerns. So ESG to a small business has to be tailored. ESG in general has to be tailored. What is material or what is important to a bank in terms of ESG may not be important to a farmer. So I cannot expect the banker and the farmer to be reporting on the same things or to be worried about the same things.
Yeah.
So as a banker, I care about access to finance. To a farmer, I care about clean water. I care about the environmental degradation. Is erosion destroying my area? Is flood going to destroy my crops for this year?
Yeah.
So those are the things.
In fact, I heard a story of, I don't know what village it is now in Africa. They have one of the very best coffees that you can think of. But because child labor is involved in production of the coffee, it's almost like a no-go in the European world. So what they had to do was, do you know the story?
I do.
And so what they had to do was they now had to they now had to put on the label that 80% of the proceeds from this coffee sale goes to putting the children back in school and ensuring that their environment is well taken care of. So that's actually the strategy that they're using to sell that coffee. So it's very important.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right. Okay, so the next, which is almost bringing us to the end of a very interesting chat, there seems to be significant knowledge gap among employees and stakeholders regarding sustainability, with many perceiving the concept to be one that concerns the board members or the management team. How can we demystify this misconception and ensure broader engagement across all levels of an organization?
Well, I would, in good. Good. Okay. So in 2012, the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principles were released, right? And from 2012 to 2018 or so, a survey was done to see the impact of the Sustainable Banking Principles. And one of the key points taken out was that employees were unaware of sustainability practices within the banks. And not only that, they were unaware as to why they needed it. So because of that, they were not really implementing sustainability practices. So it's on the organization to indoctrinate it, to teach it. It's part of our core values, it's part of our ethics, it's part of our strategy. So it becomes it's a mindset. Sustainability is a mindset. So you have to incorporate it into everything they are doing.
Yes.
Encourage it, because now if they say CJ in your organization or in your bank, you've been transferred to sustainability department, you don't know your career progression. But if you're a marketer or if you're a loan officer, you already know you can get to where you're going to get.
Yes.
But now they started learning that, okay, there's a career path for a sustainability officer that leads to the C-suites, to the executive suites.
Yes.
And that encourages people to learn more, encourages employees to now imbibe sustainability as part of their work.
All right, so our theme is Corporate Sustainability 2025 in view. So what sustainable practices do you believe businesses here should incorporate to ensure sustainability?
Again, it all depends on the industry in which the business exists. Technology plays a key role as an enabler, but technology should not be the only thing you think about. When you see nowadays people have ideas for businesses, the first thing you're thinking about is, oh, I want to be a tech founder. I want to be a tech founder. Oh, let me build my app. Let me build my... There you go, tech bro. But in terms of sustainability outlook for the future, I still harp on it. Your employees will make or mar your organization.
Yes.
Especially in Nigeria. Not just private entities, public entities as well. I keep on saying it. First things first. Train your employees. The corporate culture needs to be set. It needs to be such that the employees believe that what we are doing makes a difference. If they don't believe it, I guarantee there's no incentive you can give them. Increase their salary. There's a money plateau. You get to 5 million naira a month, it becomes boring. Are we sure? He said, what?
He said, "Are you sure?"
It becomes boring. I mean, look at the lives of the big men in this one. Shouldn't they be tired of making money by now? No, but it's the vision of the organization that still drives them.
Yes.
It's the goal of the organization that still drives them, not the money. I mean, let's be honest. So I believe that the sustainability practice or my sustainability focus will be on the social aspect, the social and governance aspect of sustainability. Make sure employees are trained right. Make sure you're recruiting the right employees. Diversity and inclusion.
Very important.
Women need to be incorporated more at the executive level.
Yeah.
People living with disabilities, their voices need to be heard.
Very important.
Not just men. I'm a guy. I should be promoting myself, but no, gender equity, gender equality
Yes,
is
very
important
important.
because even in the banking sector, it's assured that lending to women has a higher payback rates than lending to men.
Wow.
So women are more responsible with the funds given to them as business owners, and they pay on time. Man, I mean, I'm not going to knock our agenda, but the first thing we do when we get money is we show it. That's a simple truth.
So this sounds.
No, I don't have the statistics right now, but we show it because we want to let you know that I have arrived.
No, but to be honest, I saw a report that women, when you empower them, okay, so this report was basically on women in trade, women and rights in trade. So it was saying that when you give loans to women and they do business, now this was talking about statistics, right? This was trying to compare when you give loans to men and when you give loans to women. When you give loans to women, they actually do the business,
Yes.
get the profits, and from that profit, children are fed. So poverty eradication is right there. Hunger is treated. Sorry, what? No, I'm not saying the man just it away. Wait, I'm coming. Children, the woman prioritizes the children's education.
Yeah.
They go to school. So she's also doing business. People are employed in the business. So you can see what, and ND, please, this is not.
No, I completely.
So this is the importance of actually giving women loan. And I'm not saying that men don't do it, but they're just saying that from statistics, I'm not saying that men trade that way. But like he says, yeah, I know, right?
I agree. No, lending to women leads to more inclusive development. That's basically the point she's getting at. Men are more about the business and it's a hard science versus a soft science, right? The man is more analytical. Bam, 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 bam. I'm doing this. I'm making this amount of money. I'm putting this one back. I'm expanding to a new business. The woman thinks about only that business and what that business can provide for our immediate community. And that's, whether it's good or bad, it's the way they operate, and it's helped develop rural and communities.
Wow, thank you so much for a very wonderful, insightful conversation, Cheche. I hope that when we call again, won't you come?
Sure, it was fun. I had a great time.
Thank you so much. Wow.
All right.
Thank you so much, though.